This is the story of Spendius, the survivor. He has traveled far and worked at many trades. His fate took a turn for the worse on the day he was captured by the Carthaginians and was enslaved in their great city. Superb are the temples that rise at the heart of the city, in the sacred precinct. Salammbô, the grand priestess of Tanith, is resplendently beautiful. But Spendius is far from being in a position to appreciate Carthage's splendor. He works until exhausted, whipped by guards on the lookout for the slightest indication that he is slacking off. Seemingly forgotten in a secret dungeon, Spendius curses his fate. He would do anything to gain his freedom. Spendius escapes by making use of the skeletons of prisoners less fortunate than him. Then he removes the bars from a cellar window that gives onto the yard of the sacred precinct. Salammbô, daughter of Hamilcar, surprises him as he is slipping out of his prison. She promises to help him leave the city if he agrees to be her messenger. Spendius must go and find Matho, a mercenary chief, tell him that Salammbô is secretly in love with him, and give him a statuette to demonstrate the truth of this message. Following Salammbô's advice, the fugitive hides in Hanan the treasurer's bags. This ruse makes it possible to leave the sacred precinct and then the city without being stopped. Hanan and his escort are on their way to pay mercenaries that are camped outside of the ramparts. These men served Carthage during a lengthy war with Rome that was eventually lost. They are impatiently waiting to receive the money that is still owed them. After a short walk, Hanan stops in front of the mercenary camp. The treasurer lectures the men while his interpreter translates for those who do not understand Carthaginian. Hanan orders the Gallic mercenaries to present themselves first, to receive what is due them. The others will then follow in turn. During this speech, Spendius leaves his hiding place. Hindered by the chains around his hands, he unfortunately drops the statuette he was to give to Matho. How will the mercenary chief react when he receives his gift broken in pieces? A distressing question, for Spendius needs Matho's protection if he is to escape the Carthaginians who will be looking for him. In the mercenary camp, Spendius makes the acquaintance of the Gallic chief Authorite, who frees him from his chains. His hands free, the adventurer manages to repair the broken statuette, and he gives it to Matho. In exchange, he asks the mercenary chief for his protection. Alas, the latter does not wish to cause any quarrel with Carthage, as he is about to ask for Hamilcar's daughter's hand in marriage. Spendius's situation is precarious. Once all the mercenaries have been paid, they will be breaking up camp, and the fugitive will no longer have a place to hide. He will need to call upon all of his cunning to avoid the harm that awaits him. Spendius stops in front of a wine merchant's stall, where there is no one in sight except for a Numidian, dead drunk. The adventurer strives to find the recipe for the brew that left the mercenary in this condition. He finally succeeds by mixing heavy wine with 2 measures of incense, 1 of pepper, and 1 of pimento. The result is a mixture with devastating results. Spendius uses the beverage that he has concocted to create a diversion behind Hanan's camp. The treasurer's tent thus remains unguarded for a few moments. Spendius only needs this much time to act. Hanan panics. The gold meant for the mercenaries has disappeared. Spendius has gotten hold of it and hid himself to await what will happen. The treasurer tries to explain the situation to the mercenaries. "My interpreter has been killed and your money stolen," he says in Carthaginian. But the Gallic warriors look at him, not understanding. In the confusion, Spendius mingles with the crowd and plays the role of interpreter. Hanan says he has no more money, and that no one else will receive anything. Too bad for those of you who have yet to be paid. There is an angry rumble among the mercenaries. The slightest thing could set them off. A rock thrown by Spendius is enough to start the riot. The mercenaries throw stones at Hannon. Hannon and his escort must quickly flee to save their lives. Spendius has managed to set the mercenaries against Carthage. Spendius buys the support of the Gallic chief Otherite by giving him the money stolen from Hannon. Otherite does not wish to keep such a compromising treasure in his tent. He orders Spendius to bury it in a place that only they will know about. Barely is this task finished that a messenger from Carthage arrives at the camp. The city is seeking justice for the violence to which its treasurer was subjected. It has chosen as its spokesperson Hamilcar, Salammbô's father, a great general known by the mercenaries that he commanded during the last war. Matho receives Hamilcar in his tent, in the presence of Otherite and the other chiefs. Introduced by the Gaul, Spendius attends the council. He will need to keep his cards close to his chest. If the mercenaries reach an understanding with Hamilcar, his life will not be worth much. With his careful words, Spendius has sown the seeds of war. Hamilcar returns to Carthage without having obtained anything. After his departure, a heavy silence descends on the council tent. The chiefs look at each other questioningly, some of them already regretting the words that were said. They think of Carthage's antiquities and its glorious past. Would they really dare go to battle against the city? Or will they call Hamilcar back to resume negotiations? Once again, all depends on Spendius's silver tongue. The die has been cast. To convince the mercenaries to declare war, Spendius has accepted a dangerous mission. Returning to Carthage to bring back the Zaïmph, sacred veil of the goddess Tanith. Matho draws Spendius back to confide in him. When you arrive in the city, speak to Salammbô. Tell her that events are forcing me to wage war on her birthplace. I've lost all chance of marrying her with her father's consent, but no matter. What I cannot have otherwise, I will get by force. Spendius manages to enter Carthage by the waterworks supplying the city. He emerges from the reservoirs by a supply grill dug into the middle of a cliff. The night is warm. The scent of spices, tar, and dried algae emerges from the sleeping city. No one in sight. A cat-like leap, and our thief is in the streets of Carthage. A crazy beggar, or one inspired by the gods, gives Spendius a bird that he calls his little princess. As he hands over his gift, he says some strange words. As each pair of demons howls in unison, the door of terror will open up for you. Pass in front of the treasures, follow darkened corridors, and find the path leading to the gardens. In the sacred groves a female bird sings, and the bicephalous bird, a male, is caught in the trap. Near the slumbering monster grow 3 sleep-inducing flowers, to be picked, ground, and then thrown in the fire. Put she who watches to sleep, charm the guardian, and close your hand over the sacred veil. Spendius surprises Hannon in a tavern where the treasurer has gone to forget the obligations of his position. He drugs him and robs him of his official insignia. Disguised as a senator, Spendius enters the sacred precinct. Spendius mingles with the senators present in the temple of Moloch. Hamilcar recounts the failure of his mission to his peers. A chorus of indignant protests greets his account. We must rid ourselves of this mercenary riffraff. The money they are owed, let's melt it in their mouths in the form of lead ingots. Despite the prudency advocated by Hamilcar, the furious senators immediately vote for war. The session is over. The room empties, and Spendius is left alone, hidden in the shadows of a pillar. Avoiding the main door, the adventurer takes a partially hidden exit that opens up onto a deep staircase. A terrible noise is heard. A mechanism has been activated, and a grill has just fallen behind Spendius, cutting off his retreat. In front of him, is a corridor where a mournful echo can be heard. The Zaïmph seems to be very far away. After having thwarted the subterranean traps, Spendius crosses a perfumed garden. A priestess sings in the night. The adventurer approaches noiselessly to hear the words being sung. Sometimes thin and bent like a galley with no masts, she glides over a black sea. Sometimes shiny and round, she skims the peaks of mountains like a shepherd among the stars. Spendius has defied the last obstacles separating him from the Zaïmph. He gets hold of the sacred veil and drapes it around himself. This simple gesture causes the approaching soldiers to cease threatening and to remain a respectful distance away. The thief leaves the temple under the protection of the veil. Petrified, the guards let him pass. No one dares stop him for fear of damaging the Zaïmph. Spendius leaves the sacred precinct atop an elephant that he has commandeered. He has a moment of fright when a pig falls between the legs of his mount. The elephant panics and begins to shy away, but its rider is able, luckily, to calm it. Stupefied passers-by see Spendius leaving through the city doors. He moves further away, taking Carthage's luck with him. The mercenaries greet him triumphantly. His having obtained the Zaïmph erased their last doubts. Now, everyone wishes to go to war. The chiefs call a meeting to draw up a battle plan. At the end of the council, the chiefs each go their own way. Matho leaves for a mission on the coast, carrying with him the Zaïmph. Narhavas leads his cavalrymen into the back country. Authorite remains to guard the camp, along with the majority of the troops. Spendius, for his part, reflects on the possible ways of sabotaging the Carthage waterworks. Spendius's quest takes him all the way to the Hatchet Mountain Pass. In a temple long forgotten by man, he removes the eye from a statue of Moloch. Spendius discovers the underground canal supplying the Carthage waterworks. He throws the eye of Moloch into the current, setting off a devastating explosion. The waterworks, cut off from their source of water, are no longer supplying the fountains of Carthage. Spendius has completed his mission. All that's left for him to do is meet up with the mercenaries and announce his success. While Spendius was exploring the Hatchet Pass, Hannon left Carthage, leading a strong army. The war elephants and the renowned Sacred Legion jostled the mercenaries, led by Authorite. The Gallic chief, drunk at the time of the attack, allowed himself to be caught unawares. He was forced to flee to the Solitude Mountains with his men. This is where Spendius finds the mercenaries, after having ruptured the waterworks and crossed over the mountain. Spendius rallies the conquered mercenaries and marches on Hannon. At the same time, Narhavas and his cavalrymen return from having gotten supplies. The Numidians are prodding forward a group of pigs commandeered in the backcountry. Narhavas meets up with Spendius before the battle begins. These providential reinforcements give Spendius the cavalrymen he was lacking, and a group of pigs, somewhat unexpectedly, spread out on the battlefield. In front of the mercenaries' army, Hannon is lining up his troops. At the center of the men, he places his elephants and the glorious phalanx of the Sacred Legion. Spendius is victorious. He captures the enemy general, chases the remainder of his army from Carthage, and regains control of the mercenary camp. Shortly after the battle ends, Matho returns from his journey to the coastal cities. He brings with him engines of war that are immediately placed in position in front of the ramparts. Carthage will truly be under siege. One of Narhavas's men tries to kill Spendius, but the latter, wary, foils his plans. The adventurer overhears a conversation between Narhavas and one of Hamilcar's messengers. The Numidian chief has sold out to the Carthaginians. He is planning to launch a surprise attack against his former friends, while Hamilcar is also attacking. The mercenaries will face a mortal danger. Spendius and Matho are quicker than Narhavas. They come upon the Numidian army, leading the Gauls, Balears, Etruscans, and their pariah allies, and chase them into the back country. It was time. Already Hamilcar is leaving Carthage. Spendius and Matho turn around to face him, and attempt to catch him between them. Hamilcar immediately reacts. He sends some of his troops to fight Matho, while he marches towards Spendius with his elite soldiers. To the south, Matho is victorious, and pushes the enemy back into the city. To the north, Spendius is having problems. He quickly understands that he cannot hope to conquer, by normal means, one of the era's best generals. To save his army from being totally destroyed, the adventurer must retreat towards the Solitude Mountains. Alas, this happens to be the exact spot where Narhavas has regrouped his forces after his defeat. Like wolves heading off game, Hamilcar and Narhavas push the mercenaries into the Hatchet Mountain Pass. They block off any possible escape by throwing rocks from the tops of the cliffs. Spendius and his men are caught in the trap. The enemy is content to keep the high position, waiting for thirst and hunger to do the job. Despite the ever-present danger, Spendius has a taste of victory. He has survived hardships, escaped the Hatchet Mountain Pass, disguised himself to successfully infiltrate the enemy camp, and is now spying on his enemies, Hamilcar and Narhavas. Listening to their conversation, he learns that Matho's army is camped out at the foot of the Solitude Mountains. It is thus close by, but, as could be expected, in a position where it cannot make any move. His service over, Spendius, pensive, moves away. Matho cannot risk an attack, unless a daring adventurer, having infiltrated the enemy camp, offers him an occasion not to be missed. Spendius starts a fire in the Mount's enclosure. The elephants destroy the camp, not unlike a raging tidal wave. The fire quickly moves from tent to tent. The night is filled with howls. From the plains, Matho can see the enemy camp burning. He seizes the opportunity and prepares to attack. Hamilcar dies, trampled by his elephants, while Narhavas flees. Left leaderless, the Carthaginians and their allies are quickly conquered. Matho finds Spendius amid the smoldering ruins of Hamilcar's camp. They free the survivors in the Hatchet Mountain Pass, then march on Carthage. A desperate Carthage turns to Moloch. Hundreds of victims are thrust into the Red God's flaming stomach. Satiated, the god grants the city supernatural help. The stone demons, perched on the ramparts and temples, come to life to fight the mercenaries. The city still has a few troops. It groups them behind the animated statues, and the army ventures out to wage its final combat. Among the mercenaries, Etruscans and Gauls decide to wage war attached to a bronze chain. This ensures that no one can turn back. Matho brandishes the zaïmph, standing in front of a troop of elephants stolen from the enemy. While he is in the front lines, Spendius is left with the task of positioning the troops against a Carthaginian army consisting of men and demons. Carthage has lost its last war. Abandoned by gods and men, the city falls to the mercenaries. Spendius savors his revenge. On the scales of destiny, his actions were heavier than all of the resources of a millennial city. Salammbô and Matho meet up in the city, amidst the pillagers. Glory be to Tanith, who inspires and governs the love of men.